You are listening to the Rewrite the Rules podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Beth.
I'm Natalie.
And I'm Harriet.
Rewrite the Rules podcast releases a new episode every Monday, and we're all about helping you achieve a happier and healthier relationship with food and your body.
We're real people with real life experiences, so you can expect us to be keeping it raw and real in each and every episode.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you use, and share the love with a friend that you think will love this podcast.
Now, let's get on to the episode.
Hi everyone. Before we get onto the episode, we do just want to give a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about binge eating, the concept of being overweight, gaining weight, and losing weight. If this is something that you think will trigger you, then please click off of this episode. It's absolutely fine. We have tons of other episodes that you can choose from to listen to today.
Hi everyone.
Hello everyone.
Welcome to episode 27 of the Rewrite the Rules podcast. Your hosts for today is myself and Natalie. And today is a really special episode because we have our first special guest. So going forward, the Rewrite the Rules podcast is going to start having fabulous guests on, so that we can provide you listeners with different insights, different wisdoms on the very important topics that we discuss here. So we are very excited for this new chapter of the podcast because we just know it's going to increase the value and make the listening experience a little bit more dynamic and exciting. So we're going to be having guests from a wide range of backgrounds who hold different expertise and who have different experiences. And of course, with that, we also want to have guests on who have been through their own struggle with food and body image, so that we can really start to share the different angles and continue to help you feel not alone and also inspire you to get to the place that you want to be.
Yes, so we are so excited for this chapter. And on today's episode, we have a very special guest. And this guest is Leanne, my best friend, my soul sister. She is basically part of my family. So we've been friends for a whole 16 years, and we met in secondary school at the age of 14, which seems madness. But yeah, from there, we were from completely different friendship groups, completely separate friendship groups, but we instantly became inseparable. So we've travelled together, we've shared endless nights out, trips to the chicken shop after those nights out. We've had endless stories, and she is so very special to me, and that is why I'm so happy to have her here with us today, sharing her story of her struggles that she's not only just had with food but also with her relationship with her body image. So welcome, my darling.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi Leanne, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's so exciting.
No, thank you for taking the time to join us. We are, I'm buzzing personally.
I'm so excited. It is. It's the first time that Harriet, you and Leanne have met. So yeah, we're so excited, and I'm so excited for you two to meet. So shall we get down to it? And if you want to explain to our listeners, and of course to Harriet, as I said, it's the first time she will have heard your story. So if you want to explain, I know it's going to be difficult for you to go through everything, but just from the very beginning, where sort of your struggle began.
Do you know what? I was actually talking to my mum about this because it sounds strange, but for as long as I can remember, it's all I've ever known, that struggling. So it was really hard to go right back to think, okay, well, where did it actually start? But for me, I think from a young age, there wasn't any rules when it came to meal times, what we ate. Like, this is me and my brother. So a little bit of background. My mum brought us up as a single mum. She was working 2 jobs. So for us, food wasn't a priority. So it sounds really bad, but having a home cooked meal on the table when we got home from school, it wasn't a priority. Like, my mum was trying to make ends meet, working. And I think as I've got older, I understand that a lot more now. So when we were young, we was always going to childminders after school. So it was very much whatever we got there. And a lot of the time it was just ready, processed dinners. So that was one aspect of it. I don't think there was any sort of nutrition when it came to meal times. And then another thing, actually, it did make me laugh. When my mum used to take us food shopping, it was like a free for all. There was absolutely no rules. It was like anything we wanted could go in the trolley. within reason, but it was like, oh, mum, can I have this? Yeah, chuck it in. So again, it was like Christmas. That's how it felt. So when we got home, it would be eat whatever you want, whenever you want. There, like sometimes you hear when kids say they get home from school and they have a biscuit and they want a biscuit, and it's like, no, you can wait till your dinner. So that habit is in you as a child, like going forward. So when you get home, you think, oh, I'm a bit peckish. You think, oh no, I'll wait till my dinner, because then, that's, you've had that since a young age. But we never had that. It was very much, if I wanted a bag of crisps, if I wanted 2 or 3 or 4 bags, there was no concept of, okay, you should stop now, that's enough. So I think even as an early teen, I never had that discipline, knowledge, from my mum. And that's nothing against my mum, because I know she did the best she could, but we spoke about it, and she said that if she didn't care almost about what she was putting in her body, it wasn't such a priority putting it onto us, which sounds awful. It does sound bad when you say it out loud, but that is genuinely how it was. And growing up, I don't know about you girls, but when we were growing up, boys didn't go to the gym, let alone girls. There was no healthy eating. There was, in schools, the tuck shop, there was donut in our break now. I don't know if you remember when we could go to the canteen, you could buy like battered sausages at 11:30 in the morning.
Turkey Twizzlers.
It was before Jamie Oliver came in and took everything away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally. So I just feel there was no education on what we should and shouldn't be eating, which I know sounds very naive, but I didn't know the consequences of what I was doing and the effect that it would have. If I decided after school that I was going to eat 4 bags of crisps, I didn't know that was going to make me put on weight, or do you know what I mean? That sort of, and it was just continuous, I'd say, throughout all my teens. So I'd say from a really young age, it was very much a case of there's no rules. So whatever you want, you can have. And that I'd say that's probably where it started, from early teens, I would say, going into secondary school.
Yeah, because obviously I know from being with you at school, I don't know, I always knew that you struggled with food, and I always knew that, to put it plainly, weight was an issue with yourself, and I didn't really know what your home life was at that point, but I know that it got to a point at school where you wanted to lose weight.
Yeah, so I know that we talk about binge eating, but for me personally, my biggest issue that I had was that I was severely overweight for my height, my build, my age, everything. So that was one of my biggest struggles. Again, for as long as I can remember, I was just severely overweight, which in itself didn't help. So I was almost dealing with one issue, being overweight, and having to deal with that in school. And you know how tough it's tough, isn't it, when you're in school? Kids are so cruel.
Yeah.
So that was one aspect of it. But then I also had another aspect where I would binge eat. And at the time, no one knew what it was. I didn't even know what it was. And I do think, Nat, there's so many times. Do you remember when I used to come round? Say I'd been, obviously I'm skipping a little bit, but say if I decided to go on a diet and I come round for dinner and I'd bring a ready-made calorie controlled meal. Do you remember? And then I think I'll never forget this. There was one time I said, oh, should we go up the shop? And I'd been really good all week, and I bought a multi-pack of cookies, I think a multi-pack of crisps, like just out of control. And then I sat in your living room and just ate the lot. And I think you sort of gave me a look as if to say, oh, like, you all right? But I think even back then, it wasn't, I don't think you'd have put 2 and 2 together, because we didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Do you know
Not
what I mean?
all. It was such a thing of like you say, we had no clue what binge eating was. And our relationship always very much was, like, you used to say to me, you don't eat a lot. But I just saw you as that you like to eat. That's all. That's to put it plainly, I was just like, you just like to eat. I know, looking back at school, it was such a difficult time for you. And that I know that when we became friends, like, I feel like I took on the responsibility of, if anyone says anything in any way towards you, I will hunt you down, and I'll literally I would have a go at people, because kids are cruel. But there was nothing in terms of learning about nutrition, which in some ways I know can be of detriment, because it can cause you to obsess over nutrients. But there was none of that at school.
Yeah.
No,
there was nothing.
and No, and you know, like now, I think everything today, even in terms of with mental health, even the benefits that exercise gives you, none of that was not a thing. So
Yeah.
I know, you know, it's no one's fault, but growing up, I think for kids growing up now, I think, don't get me wrong, it's tough, but within, you know, like Joe Witt, he talks about exercise, how it's positive on the mind. And I think that's really, really positive for kids because they don't have to see exercising. Sorry, I'm steering off a little bit, but you know, they don't have to see exercise as, oh, I need to go on a diet and exercise. It can just be done as, oh, well, I want to feel good.
Yeah,
So, and do
absolutely.
you know what I mean? None of that was like when we were growing up. So we were in the dark about a lot of things.
Yeah,
100%.
in the dark.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way of explaining it because I also felt when I was in school, before I got really like sucked into like diet culture, I just thought I just like to eat because we didn't learn about nutrients or anything like that. It's so interesting. I think things would be a lot different if children had that information. You know, I think even it should start in primary school. But anyway, I digress. But Leanne, like, tell me, when did you realize, how old were you when you were like, I think I have a problem? Like, I don't like this. What is happening?
It's so difficult. So if I'm being honest, the binge eating aspect, I was in denial probably up until about 4 years ago. That's genuinely, and I'm, you know, all throughout my 20s. The only thing I can say is, as I said before, where my issue was that I was severely overweight, that was the biggest forefront of all of my problems. That I generally felt like, I always used to say did I say this to you, Nat? If I was skinny, I'd have no problems. All my problems would go. And that's generally what I thought in life. Like my biggest problem is that I'm overweight. So I thought that if I lose weight, then it will solve all my problems. And then the issue that I had with binge eating, because I didn't know what it was, I thought it was normal. I didn't know if anyone else did it, but I just thought, oh well, this is just something that you do. You just eat a lot and then you restrict and then you do it again. And I would say there was a time where, how old are you when it's your prom?
16?
We were 16, weren't we?
16.
Yeah.
So I remember me and mum, you know, when you go back to school and then you buy your new blazer, your new shirts and all that. So we went into, at the time, I think it was like British Home Stores. Do you remember British Home Stores?
Yeah.
Really old.
Yeah, throwback.
Yeah. So me and mum went in there, and I don't know if you know this, but the girls' shirts and the boys' shirts are very different with the buttons. So the boys, you know, like when you have your tie on, the loop goes through the different holes. So the boys' buttons fit the other side.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get into girls' school shirts anymore. So me and mum sort of looked at each other, and I had to go and buy boys' school shirts because the girls' shirts weren't big enough. And I remember standing in the changing room and I was sobbing, and I think, it was my last year of school, and I went to put on some school trousers, and I was size 22 and they were really tight. And I said to mum, like, what's going on? Like, this isn't right.
And it blows my mind, like you telling me it's a size 22. Like that absolutely blows my mind because I was friends with you throughout that time, and I don't think I ever really took in the struggles that you had of feeling like you couldn't wear school skirts.
Oh, yeah, no, none of that.
And how that would have made you feel like you stood out, or PE, when teachers would pull you out and say, do this. Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you remember as well? We weren't allowed to wear trousers in PE. We had to wear shorts. And my biggest hang up is my leg. And at that age, I don't know. I just think as teachers as well, it's like, surely you'd understand if a child is that self-conscious. I couldn't bear it. And we had to wear shorts. And then that's another thing. It's like you stand out. You know, I know it's no one's fault that you're overweight and, you know, it's no one else's problem apart from your own, but they didn't really do anything to help the situation. I wasn't allowed to wear trousers and that didn't help. So you're a walking target, really.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, sorry, veering off. So in the changing room, I was sobbing and mum said to me, well, why don't we both go to Slimming World? And I said to mum, I want to lose some weight for prom. So I think it must have been the last year before prom. And I said to mum, well, what's Slimming World? What do we do? And Slimming World groups now, I feel like there's a lot of shade thrown on Weight Watchers, Slimming World. And I understand why. I do understand why now. But back then, for me, I generally think it saved my life. Like it was at that point where I said, okay, I need to do something. But again, I didn't see it as I'm going to make a lifestyle change. It's going to change my relationship with food. All I saw it as was a cure. Oh, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to be able to. So I didn't, even at that age, even though I went to Slimming World, I didn't really understand the concept of what I was doing. Do you get what I mean? That sort of.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'd say it was the last year of school for prom. That was when I really sort of was like, oh God, I need to do something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But do you feel like that was a cure? Did you feel like then that solved all your problems? Or because I know that we had times after that, and one thing that I really want to point out along like your journey is that one thing that really sticks out to me is when we went on holiday and do you remember you went to the doctors and
Barcelona,
and you were really upset about your weight and they gave you antidepressants.
Yeah,
And
because I just couldn't cope.
I genuinely thought that's the reason why she eats the way that she does, because she's depressed. And do you feel like going on Slimming World solved it, or did that just push you on to trying to find many different diets to solve it because you hadn't figured out that it was binge eating that was the problem instead of being told it was depression?
Yeah, definitely. That's probably what I wanted to try and say, what you just said. That's perfect. So going to Slimming World was probably the start of what felt like, for me, I was constantly chasing this happy medium balance, trying to get this sort of normal, do you know what I mean? To feel normal. I'd say that was probably the start of it. And don't get me wrong, Slimming World, it was good for me at the time, but I understand now. I mean, I know you girls probably understand how Slimming World works. It's very warped in a sense of food are considered sins, and green days, well, this was back in the day, but green days, red days, free foods, all these different aspects of food, when really it's simple. Like it shouldn't be made to be so bloody, what's the word?
Mathematical equation.
I'm bloody confused even talking about it. But what I mean is, like, it's simple. It shouldn't be made out to be like that. But back in the day, it did really help me, because for prom I ended up losing 2 stone. So I felt good, but again, I didn't feel like oh well, yeah, I've cracked it. Do you know what I mean? So then after that, I think I went to Weight Watchers, and again, Weight Watchers is point system. And I'd lost a considerable amount of weight for when we went on holiday. But again, do you remember Malia? And at that point, I'd lost a lot of weight, quite restricting. I wouldn't go out. I got quite addicted to exercise, which wasn't healthy. Like, I think this sounds ridiculous, but my mum said to me, Leanne, your car you need to book your MOT in for the car. And I went, no, I've got my spinning class on Saturday morning. I wouldn't change my routine. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, you know, constant exercise every single day, sometimes twice a day. And then we went on this holiday, and, you know, don't get me wrong, I looked great because I'd worked my arse off. But again, it wasn't sustainable. I think after that holiday, I gained all of that weight back that I'd lost within the space of 6 months. That's how ridiculous I had it. But then I lost it again because it wasn't sustainable and it wasn't real life, and I wasn't living really. I was exercising, dieting for this holiday, and then I went mad on holiday and then put all the weight back on. So even at that point, after doing that, it was like, oh, here we go again. And it was just a constant vicious circle. I'd be really restricting, that I wouldn't even have sauce, like mayo or ketchup, on my meals, because I was like, no, that I wouldn't even things that I wouldn't have butter, like, or margarine or any sort of spread. That's ridiculous.
So you were losing weight, you were on this diet, you were sticking to it, you went on a holiday, and then, you know, you felt like, when you went on that holiday, was it like, screw it, I'm going to eat what I want? Or was it planned?
You know what? Yeah, like at the beginning, I tried really hard to stick to sort of eating well. And it was, you know, when you go on a night out and then all you can think about is eating chicken or Burger King or anything afterwards. If I didn't do that, it was a massive achievement. In the morning, I'd wake up and go, oh, I've made it, because I didn't go and have Burger King the night before. So, and then it all went out the window on like the 3rd, 4th day, and I completely went back to, I'd say, even worse. I would eat bowls of cereal afterwards after a night out. And then, just really like ridiculous things, because I felt so deprived over the last 8 months from dieting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because that's exactly what it was. And okay, and then essentially, in short, those 6 months afterwards where you said that you gained all the weight back, was it just you felt like you just couldn't get back to what you were doing before because it just wasn't sustainable?
Yeah, I feel like I didn't understand why I didn't have the same motivation, and it was because it was a bit grueling. Like working out twice a day, that's ridiculous. And that's when Nat mentioned that we'd booked another holiday to go away with Nat's mum and dad, which, you know, Nat's family are like my family, and it was exciting because we were all going away together. And I remember, because I think I'd put on a stone since I'd lost a lot of weight, and I got really depressed to the point where I found it really difficult to get out of bed. Like even the simplest of tasks, like brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, having a shower, I couldn't bear the thought of putting clothes on. Like I felt, it sounds really quite deep, but I felt like trapped in this body. I was like, this body doesn't belong to me. Like, how have I got this? Do you know what I mean? Like, I felt really uncomfortable in my own skin, and like I didn't know what to do to get out of it. It felt like a suit, I got this suit, and so I went to the doctors, and again, like the only solution is, well, do you want to go on antidepressants, because we can't do anything for you. And I know it's always a bit of a tough subject talking about, you know, when you feel depressed and you feel like you're at a really low point. I know that from that experience, and this does sound quite sort of not harsh, but, and I know it is difficult, but it is only you can really pull yourself out of it. No one else. Like, you can have support around you, but no one's going to get out of bed for you, or shower, or put your clothes on. So but that's quite an extreme. Like, my weight, my relationship with food, like, led me to the point of having to go on antidepressants.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because, and I also, what you said, I actually don't think it's harsh. I think it's just the truth. And I actually say it to my clients quite a lot, you know, this starts with you, you know, and I say even on like my socials, like, if you want to change, it has to start with you. You have to make that decision. And I know that I've been in situations where I feel like someone's just going to tap me on the shoulder and do it for me. And then that doesn't happen. And so I think that's actually like a really good piece of advice, that, it starts with you. And there is support there, of course. And, you know, of course, talk about it, but you have to be the one to make that decision. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, so we went on holiday to Barcelona, and I was on antidepressants, and I think this is again what I took from them. It's really strange because they do help you cope with day-to-day activities, if you will, say like getting out of bed, getting dressed, putting clothes on. But I do feel like it is like a mask. I still felt, I knew I was still depressed. I knew I was. I knew that I felt like I was prolonging it, like delaying the inevitable. Like, okay, Leanne, you're going to have to deal with this sooner or later, instead of just
you're going to have to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, like these tablets will help you, but they're not going to solve your problems. And I think maybe I felt that they would help solve my problems, but they don't. They just help you cope with day-to-day life, and that is what I got from it. And they did. And to be fair, we had an amazing holiday. It was amazing.
We did. And it was such a strange thing, because especially at the age that we were, and how old were we? We
weren't 18. Were we 18?
20?
Oh, we were. Yeah, we were like 20.
We were 18. No, I think we were 18. For you to be on those was such an unheard of thing. Like, and you would have never at that point have probably told anyone, probably apart from me, family, like, because mental health was not spoke about at all at that point.
No.
And the fact it made me, and you saying it, I remember you saying to me, I feel like this isn't my body. I feel like this is someone else's body.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm trapped inside. And it used to make me so sad, because I think we do talk a lot on this podcast about how dieting can be of detriment to people. And we talk about that in a sort of space of trying to help people when they're trying to combat restriction, binge eating, because doing a very restrictive diet is going to almost exaggerate those feelings, or it's going to make you feel worse, or it's going to cause more restriction. But, you know, I think journey is so different, because I do feel like you felt weight loss was necessary for you to live a healthier lifestyle, to do the things that you wanted to do, but you couldn't find a balance with it.
Yeah.
100%, yeah. All I knew what to do was go on a diet, be completely restricting, or binge. I didn't know. Like, I didn't know. Do you know this? And this is I thought of this actually the other day when I was thinking about trying to remember. And this sounds really strange, but you know, like when you go to work and after lunchtime, right? So when you eat your lunch, when I used to go back to my desk, I used to find it really strange that people could just eat their lunch and then stop eating. Just eat a sandwich and then just carry on with work. And I used to sit there and think, how do they not want to eat anything else? How do they not want to like have this and then have that? Because I used to find if I eat lunch, then I'm like, oh, what else can I have? And it was so out of control. I would have lunch and then I would get a bag of crisps, a cake, sweets, and then I'd think, oh, how do I stop? And I used to really envy people, which sounds so strange. I used to envy people that would eat their lunch and just carry on working. And I'll be like, how are you not itching inside to want to eat something, mate? And then I used to have to stop myself. I used to have to be like, right, you can't eat anything else. Like, that's it now. I used to really find it hard to not eat anything else after lunch.
And can you also like explain what your restriction would be like? Like if you'd had a binge,
Oh, yeah.
how would your feelings of guilt be the next day, or what would you eat at work when you were in that restrictive phase?
Yes, it's like, I'll never forget this. So when we were working, me and Nat got a job working with our friend's dad at the time, and Nat done the evening shift, I done the day shift, like 9 to 5. So I would go in, there would be like this snack wagon that would come around at 9:30 every morning. I'd go in, I wouldn't have any breakfast or anything. I'll never forget, on the snack wagon, I would buy a big eat bag of Wotsits and a bag of minstrels at 9:30 in the morning, by the way. And then I would eat the minstrels and eat the Wotsits at 9:30. It used to be like, I used to look forward to it. And then lunchtime, I'd go down to the baker's, I'd get crusty rolls, I'd get a cake, and then I'd nip over to Tesco's and get a bag of sweets and a fizzy drink. And then that would kind of be it. That would be it at lunch. And then I would go home and probably mindless eating. I would eat things that weren't even exciting. I'd eat bowls of Weetabix. I'd eat toast, half a loaf of bread. No dinner. I used to find it really hard to eat dinner once I'd had a binge. So then that cycle would continue for say a week. Genuinely, I would eat that for a week straight. And then the next following Monday, I'd say, right, let's get back on it. Or back on what, I don't know, but let's get back on it. And then I would go in the morning. I wouldn't have breakfast. I would take in 2 slices of ham, you know, that thin ham. And then I'd take the pre-made salad leaves, and then I'd have a teaspoon of mayonnaise. And that's what I would eat at lunchtime, and that would be it. And I'd do that again for like say a week. And then I'd think, oh, I've been good. I can go back to doing what I was doing. And that was quite a long time. That was about 6 months, which, the thought of it now just makes me feel so sad. Like just awful, being trapped in that. I couldn't get out of it. Just could not get out of this cycle.
Yeah. It feels relentless, doesn't it?
That's the word. Yeah. Just constant cycle.
Gosh.
So,
and no one questioned it or found it strange. Like, I don't know. I think looking now, if I saw someone, I don't know, I probably wouldn't say anything, to be honest. I've learned like that from, I don't know, I wouldn't say anything, but I would look and think, oh, I think that's a bit.
In your mind, because you know where you've been, you know those signs, and looking out for someone that's struggling with their relationship with food.
My first thought would be, if they're eating 2 slices of ham and a few lettuce leaves at lunch, they're going home and binging. Because I know, because I did it.
Yeah.
Not saying everyone does, but I'm saying that to me would be, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah.
Because I've been there. I feel like I could write a book about it, to be honest.
I know. I feel like, Nat, we were talking about this in December, about how we can really see the signs of disordered eating from like a mile off.
A mile off.
It's like
Definitely.
you just know. And it, you know, maybe it's not like crystal like super accurate, but you're like, yeah, I think I know what's going on here.
And that's the thing, like we say, you know, from your struggles with eating and the relationship you've had with your body, opinions or somebody pointing out straight away sometimes isn't helpful. Or when you're really trying to find your way with finding a balance with food, you just don't need certain opinions, and you wouldn't say that to anybody else. But I guarantee everyone that I have maybe been, you know, in their company and I've thought that they're struggling with their relationship with food, they always have, because you just know when you've been there. But the next thing that I kind of want to ask is, I know that we went traveling together, and it was a point of, which was probably a very difficult part of our friendship, because you went home and I stayed, so we were in Australia at this point, and I know that you struggled so hard with your relationship with your body and with food, and especially being in a country like Australia, it's like, it's even harder when it's hot and when you wanted to wear the things that you wanted to wear, and we were, you know, living with this massive group of people, going out all the time. I struggled with my relationship with food at that point, because you're drinking, you're eating all the time, but you went home and then you ended up not coming back out.
Hi everyone, so sorry for interrupting the episode. We know that this episode has been so amazing, so interesting, but we have decided to make this episode a two-parter. So this is part 1, and you can expect part 2 to be released next week. If you're not already, make sure you are subscribed and you are following, so you'll be notified exactly when the episode is out. We thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in part 2.